Guys, it's Mrs. De La Rosa. I just wanted to go over a couple of the problems for the Chapter 3 homework just to get you started. So for number 1, it wants us to foot and balance the cash T account shown below. So we see cash, and I know that cash is an asset account, so it increases on the debit side or the left side, and it decreases on the credit side or the right side. So to figure this problem out, all you are going to do is add up everything on the debit side. So when I add everything on the left, I get 1560. Then I'm going to add up everything over on the credit side, and here I get 320. And then I'm going to subtract the two numbers. Okay, so this was cash that came in, my 1560, minus the cash that left the business in the amount of 320. And so I have a balance of 1240. All right, let's take a look at number 2. You are going to complete the following statements using either debit or credit. So for this problem, please use the umbrella PDF that I put for you guys out in course announcements. So there's a little picture of it, but it is attached as a PDF. So have it open on another screen or print it out. The umbrella is going to be really important as you are practicing with these assignments. So I'm just going to do maybe the first one or two here just to get you started. The cash account is increased with A. Well, I know cash is an asset account. So on my umbrella, assets increase on the debit side. So number 1 would be a debit. The owner's capital account is increased with A. If you look at your umbrella over on the right side, we increase owner's capital on the credit side. Okay, so you'll just keep going down all the way through I, figure out what type of account it is, like right here, delivery equipment. We know that's an asset account. And then which side is it increased on? And then you'll put that choice right there. All right, looking at number 3, we are looking for the normal balance of account. So you will indicate the normal balance, either a debit or credit, for each of the following accounts. So this is in the book, so I'm going to direct you guys back to that section in the textbook. Read the section on normal balance of account, and then come in here and answer these questions. And don't forget, you have the check my work button. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. Here we are going to take it line by line, and we're going to start with A. Invested cash in the business in the amount of $25,000. So I know that cash is an asset and it increases on the debit side. So I'm going to type in $25,000, and then I'm going to put letter A right here. So you're putting the letter for the transaction and the amount. Okay. I know that the other account that was affected was my owner's equity. My owner's equity increases on the credit side. So I'm going to put 25,000 there, and I'm going to put letter A. Okay. So at least 2 accounts will always be affected, right? We talked about that in chapter 2. So in B, he bought office supplies for cash for $200. Okay, so he paid cash, so cash left my business. So cash decreases on the credit side. So cash B, and it's mine decreased by $200. Now remember, your screen might have different numbers, but it is the exact same thing. Okay. The other account that was affected was office supplies. I've got to scroll down a little bit. So now I put B, and I put $200 in office supplies. Okay. Looking at C, we bought office furniture for cash for $5,000. Okay. So cash decreases on the credit side. So I'm going to put C, and I'm going to put 5,000 in here. I might decrease my cash on the credit. And the other account that was affected was office furniture. I'm going to go down here. I'm looking at C, $5,000. Okay. In D, he purchased computer and printer on account in the amount of $7,500. Okay, so I know he didn't pay cash for it. So what would it be? I hope you said accounts payable, okay? So my accounts payable, I'm going to go under my liabilities, and my accounts payable increases on the credit side. It's opposite, right? It's on the other side of the equation. So it increases on the credit. So I'm going to put D for the amount of $7,500. And the other account that's affected is down here. Got to scroll a little bit. It is computer equipment. So D, 7,500. Okay. In E, he received cash from clients for services in the amount of $4,000. Okay, so I know my cash is going to increase on the debit side. I apologize, on the debit side. So here I'm going to put E, and that's going to be $4,000. The other account that's affected, what do you guys think it is? I hope you said revenue, okay? I'm going to go down here, professional fees increase on the credit side. E, 4,000, okay? In F, they paid cash on account for the computer and the printer they purchased in transaction D in the amount of $2,300. Okay, so I know my cash is going to decrease because I made a payment on something. So I'm going to put F, decrease my cash on the credit side in the amount of $2,300. The other account that's affected is my liabilities. Okay, I don't owe them $7,500 anymore. I made a payment. Okay, my liabilities decrease on the debit side. So I'm going to change this to F, and I'm going to put $2,300 here. Right? In G, they earned professional fees on account during the month for $8,500. So for this one, this is revenue. We recognize revenue when it is earned, even if they haven't paid us that revenue yet, okay? So I know professional fees are my revenue. So G, I'm going to scroll down. And that amount was $8,500. If you can't see revenues on your screen, you might have to scroll a little bit to the side, okay? I zoomed my screen out so we could see it a little bit better, but on yours, you might have to scroll to the right a little bit, okay? All right, so the other account here, fees on account. So that tells me that the client is going to pay me in the future. So they didn't pay me cash right now. So the other account that I need to put an entry in is accounts receivables. Okay, I'm waiting to receive that money from my clients. Accounts receivable is an asset and it increases on the debit side. So I'm going to put G and I'm going to put 8,500. Okay. In H, he paid cash for office rent for January for the amount of $800. Okay, so I know my cash decreased, right? Because I paid a bill. So I'm going to decrease my cash on the credit side. So I'm going to put H, and that is the amount of $800. And then I need to go find my expense account. Okay, it might be over to the right a little bit. So my rent expense is H, and that was $800. And that increases on the debit side. Okay, remember your umbrella shows you that also. So here we do have, it's listed for us, but your umbrella, as we get to, a little bit more difficult problems, you keep that umbrella with you. It's going to keep you remembering which side increases on the debit, which side decreases on the credit, or vice versa. Okay. So let's go up to I. He paid utility bills for the month in $800. Okay, so I know my cash is going to decrease. I'm going to put I, and that decreases on the credit side in the amount of $800. And then I'm going to scroll back down to my expenses. I'm going to change that to I and put $800. I increase my expense accounts on the debit side. Okay. In J, He received cash from clients billed in transaction G. Okay, so we've already recognized this as revenue. So what's happening is my accounts receivable, they've paid me some money. So I'm going to increase my cash on the debit side. So I'm going to put, we are on J, and the amount of $6,000. My cash increased on the debit by $6,000. And the other account that's affected is the accounts receivable. Okay, they've made a payment, so they don't owe me $8,500 anymore. They're making a payment of $6,000. So I'm going to take $6,000 out of accounts receivable. So I'm going to put J. There we go. J in the amount of $6,000. Okay. And the very last one, he withdrew cash for personal use in the amount of $2,700. Okay, so I know my cash is going to decrease on the credit side by $2,700, and that's K. And the other account that's affected, I'm sure you said drawing, so yes, it is drawing, right? Capital's what's put into the business from personal accounts. Drawing is what's taken out for personal use. Okay, so right here, K, and he took out $2,700. All right, so we have all of these filled in. And make sure you hit check my work so you can make sure you've got everything where it needs to go. Okay, remember your numbers are a little bit different than mine, so just keep that in mind. So it's asking us to put balance amounts, right? So we're not done. We've just kind of put everything where it needs to go in the T accounts. Now we need to do some totals. So here I'm going to add up everything on the debit side for cash, and I'm going to put that number in here. All right, so with the magic of television, we can see that when I add up all of the debits for the cash, I have 12,500. And when I add up all of the credits for cash, I get 11,800. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the two. 12,500 minus 11,800 gives me 700. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing with accounts receivable. So people owed me $8,500 and then they made a payment. Okay, so 8,500 minus 6,000 gives me $2,500 there. And then office supplies, computer equipment, office furniture, all that stays the way it is. We only had one entry. Okay, so looking at my liabilities, it's flipped. It looks a little bit different than what we just did for accounts receivable. Okay, so I had a balance of 7,500, and then I made a payment in the amount of 2,300. So I'm going to subtract 7,500 minus 2,300. That gives me 5,200. Okay, capital stays as it is, drawing stays, expenses stay, my professional fees, my revenues. I have credit entries here, so I'm just going to add them up. 12,500. There we go. And that is how you tackle this problem. Again, just go line by line, put all the numbers in, at least 2 accounts are affected, and then find the balances. And then, what do I always say? Use check my work. It's going to be your best friend. All right, the last problem we are going to cover is number 5, okay? 6 and 7 are going to be very similar to 4 and 5, okay? So I'm giving you a starting point, and I believe in you. You can do these, all right? So let's look at 5. Now, when you open 5, it just has the instructions first. So make sure you click right here where it says trial balance. It's going to pop open a new window. Okay, now you can hit the hamburger over here and it'll put them on top of each other, but I kind of like working them side by side right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna expand these a little bit. The instructions, I'm gonna have to keep scrolling up and down as I do this, okay? But I got my unadjusted trial balance over here on the right side, and we're gonna enter our numbers into the trial balance, okay? So I'm looking at my assets. I see cash, and over here, I see a balance on the debit side for $9,000. So I'm just going to go over here to my trial balance, and I'm going to plug in on the debit side $9,000. All right. So that's all. We're just going to come over here to the T accounts, put them in the trial balance, and then as we go down, they need to, I say should, but they need to equal each other. Okay. So let's keep going. I see accounts receivable. It has a debit balance of 4,000. So I'm going to go over here on the debit side and type in $4,000. My office supplies, see how it says 500 on the debit. So 500 right here. 5,000 for computer equipment on the debit side. So 5,000 for computer equipment. And the last asset is $8,000 for office furniture. Okay, so $8,000. There we go. So now we're moving to liabilities. And the first one is accounts payable. All right, so this one has a credit balance of $3,000. So for accounts payable, I'm going to scoot over to credit and type in $3,000. Okay. Moving to owner's equity, my capital has a credit balance of $18,000. So go down to capital, slide over to credit, and put in $18,000. My drawing, I see $4,000 in drawing on the debit side. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my trial balance, type in $4,000 in my trial balance for drawing. Then we're going to move to revenue. I have professional fees. I have a credit balance of $11,000. So I'm going to go over to my trial balance, slide over to credit, and type in $11,000. There we go. Now we're going to move to expenses. Okay, so I rent expense for $900 on the debit side. So over here, $900 in debit. And then my utilities expense, I see $600 balance on the debit side. So I type in $600 right there. Okay. So now I've plugged in all of these T accounts into the unadjusted trial balance, and now we're going to add up both sides. All right, and again, with the magic of television, we can see that when I add up all of my debits, I get 32,000, and then when I add up all of my credits, I have 32,000 again. Okay, so this one, just plug them in where you see the balances over in the T accounts, and then just make sure they add up at the very bottom. All right, guys, that is it for our Chapter 3 homework problem review. Like I said, the last two problems are very similar to the ones I went over in the video, okay? So make sure you have your umbrella with you. Watch this video as many times as you need to. I believe in you. You can do this, okay? And if you get stuck, please feel free to reach out to me, all right? We'll help you out. But yeah, I hope you are finding these videos helpful. Thank you to everyone who's reached out to me and said it's helped them through the homework. That makes me extremely excited. Okay, so keep up the hard work. You've got this.